But we are also funding a Peruvian trans graphic novel. So any type of support the comic book industry can get, I guess we got to support it.
I mean, I guess so. Who needs some money is the American comic book industry, because they no longer know how to generate it themselves.
Apparently, it feels like everything's kind of breaking apart all at the exact same time, Aaron. Although we did see the people freak out about the tariffs. And I made a video. I was like, yeah, this will be measured in the days, maybe weeks, but it's just a negotiating ploy. That all came to bear. It's already been put on hold for at least 30 days. But there are so many other things breaking within comic books, not to mention Diamond Comics distributors and a few other things kind of falling apart. It almost feels like, I don't know. What would you describe what's happening right now? Are we in the death throes? Is this like, are we seeing the final cracks of the comic book industry? Or do you think this all heals itself?
Well, do you remember the line from Avengers Age of Ultron when Ultron says whenever things basically it's like it comes down to whenever things start to settle, or God throws a stone. This is the stone. This is the stone that's been thrown at the comic book industry, and it is going to be a huge disruption. It's going to take out multiple companies. Diamond's collapse, the shrapnel from that is going to take out multiple companies, and you're just seeing a lot of panic and a lot of this is one of those catastrophic changes that should have happened a long time ago. It was easy to predict. It was easy to look ahead and see that eventually this would be a problem, but as is typical with the comic book industry, they wait until everything is catastrophic and before they even remotely try to do anything. Nobody tried to get out in front of this. You and I did a video where we talked about the only smart person, the only smart decision that it seems like Jim Lee has made in charge of DC was pulling out of Diamond when Diamond shut the industry down and starting up with Lunar, and thus creating another path for comic book companies. And a couple of comic book companies migrated over, and if anything, that'll be the saving grace of the mainstream comic book industry. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to shrink. We're probably going to lose IDW, which was, they were always on death's door anyway. But they're probably out of business. We're going to lose a lot of the smaller publishers that either don't get picked up or don't have an avenue to get their books out. We're going to see a lot of people that told you that they hated you and that you're not my customer, I work for the publisher. You're going to see a lot of those people doing crowdfunders now. And just remember, you're not their customer. Just remember how they treated you. Remember the things that they said to you when they thought that they were safe, because they're going to come crowd our space. The people who are actually interested in doing things for the customer, they're going to come crowding in, trying to fool you into backing their projects now. And then the tariffs, it's just been absolutely delightful watching Rich Johnson be alarmist about tariffs, and then watching Matt Moylan from Udon just completely destroy his argument piece by piece on Twitter.
Yeah, because they were acting like the cover price is how much it would cost to import it into the United States. You're paying for what you produced, and if it costs you 30 cents to produce a comic book, the 10% would be like 3 cents, or 25% would be more like 10 cents maybe. But they're like, oh yeah, there's nothing they can do. We just got to add $1 onto everything, and it was absolutely ridiculous math.
Yeah, no, it didn't make any sense, and it was just it's sensationalist. It's for clicks. Bleeding Cool is a dying site. It's hemorrhaging people. It's hemorrhaging relevance. Nobody believes Rich Johnson. Nobody trusts him. And so, when he puts out something like that, it's basically rage bait. But I mean, I think he's actually dumb enough to believe it, because he's sitting there arguing it with Matt, and Matt has a much firmer grasp on what the tariffs are when it comes to printing books, because he actually pays tariffs. Udon pays tariffs on books that they print in China.
But Rich Johnson's the expert now over a publisher?
Oh, yeah, he's an expert in everything. Rich Johnson is the Dave Meltzer of comic books. He's just talking out his ass all the time, making stuff
Collateral
up.
Damage on Dave Meltzer.
That's right. Take that, Dave. Got him.
Thankfully, some people are finding a soft landing spot after Diamond's bankruptcy. Boom, Vault Comics, Mad Cave Studios, and Silver Sprocket have each sent notice to comic book retailers that they will no longer be working with Diamond in light of the company's bankruptcy. Of the 3 publishers, Vault, Mad Cave, and Silver Sprocket will be moving to distribute via Lunar Distribution. Boom Studios informed retailers that it will be transitioning into distribution by Penguin Random House Publishing Services on April 1st. There was somebody out there, Brian Hibbs, like, there's going to be nowhere for these people to go. Obviously, there is somewhere for these people to go. Boom, Vault, Mad Cave, Silver Sprocket, not all of those are major, enormous publishers. They found a place over there at Lunar because they do have, apparently, the capacity to take on more clients there. But there were like 250 comic book publishers that were working through Diamond to distribute into the direct market. Me personally, I'm of the mindset that there isn't room for 250 publishers with an industry that isn't exactly thriving right now.
No, I think Doc said it, but he said like a lot of these publishers were vanity publishers. They weren't really making any money anyway. They were just, backed by, somebody who had some money. And, if you're a company that's backed by somebody who has some money and is just willing to put stuff out there, you're going to be fine anyway, because you were never really focused on profit. And as long as the person that's funding you doesn't lose interest, you're golden, and you'll find another way. You'll go direct to consumer, obviously, Peter Simeti saw this coming a long time ago, went direct to consumer with Alterna, and actually just speaks directly to his customer base and cut out the middleman. So yeah, you're going to see a lot more of that, and I welcome it. The system needed disruption. I hate to see people lose their jobs. I hate to see I hate to see shops have more challenges thrown at them when they already have so many. With all the terrible comics that they're asked to sell by the publishers. But it's one of those disruptions that needs to happen if the comic industry has any chance of surviving into the future, any chance of growing into the future. This absolutely had to happen. Diamond was absolutely incompetent, and everybody who switched to Lunar, Mad Cave, Vault, all these companies, Silver Sprocket going over to Lunar. Guess what, retailers? You're going to get your books early, and you're going to get your books undamaged.
That's going to be a big deal. Did you see what Massive is doing?
No.
They have a deal with Lunar to where basically you can, have an imprint at Massive or sub-distribute for you, to where you go to Massive, you sign a deal, and if you have a line that maybe isn't quite big enough for Lunar, you strike a deal with them, and then they will print your books for you and get them distributed out through Lunar distribution. So there's already been new avenues opening up for some of these companies out there that wish to go out there and still compete in the direct market, obviously comic book shops around America.
That's really good. I like that. I applaud Massive for that move. That's actually, wow, a comic company that actually did something to help the overall industry and the overall health of the industry. That's insane. A company that really needs to do better outreach is Ghost Machine, because the stuff that they are producing should speak for itself, but unfortunately we're no longer in a market where that happens. So you've got to be out there like speaking, to the people. You've got to be showing it off. I mean, we're doing what we can, promoting it and talking about it each week when a new book comes out and we like it. But man, they need more of their guys on social media, engaging with fans, getting people hyped for this stuff.
What's weird, when you talk about Ghost Machine, obviously an imprint and Image Comics, much like Skybound, but the owner or the guy in charge of Skybound is also an executive at Image. The guy in charge of all the Spawn books is an executive at Image. The guy in charge of Savage Dragon is an executive at Image Comics. I know you just kind of got to go in there assuming that they're not going to promote your book, because the guys making the decisions are literally executives with their own books competing with you in the market.
They're the EVPs. Are you saying that they're the young bucks of the comic book? Is Image AEW? Are they the young bucks?
I don't know, man. You're the one that hates AEW. I think AEW is great, except for the young bucks.
Yeah, except that you haven't seen any AEW in a long time, so you have no idea whether it's great or not.
Once Jeff Jarrett showed up, I couldn't justify continuing to spend money on the product. Another company that is faring not so great these days is Dark Horse Comics. Apparently, they had numerous layoffs. On February 3rd, Dark Horse made the difficult but necessary decision to reduce staff. After experiencing a period of significant growth, we find ourselves needing to take steps in response to increasing overhead, changing market conditions, and external economic factors. We have begun to streamline all areas of the company in order to continue producing the quality content and products that have been our trademark since day one. Again, this has been an extremely hard decision and not one taken lightly. We appreciate the dedication, commitment, and hard work of our colleagues and wish everyone affected success in their future endeavors.
So it's like, what do you do? Do you cut back on the talent that's producing the books, or do you try to cut down on your executive and editorial overhead? That's, probably where you would want to make the first cut, because you can make your existing editors work harder. That's the way companies think, because it's like, well, we'll eliminate 2 people, we'll just give their workload to the 3 that are left, and they'll be able to take that on until they go insane and they quit, or the quality dips to a point that the book gets canceled. These are all the things that happen when you have an industry in decline. I know that a lot of companies are already going to be slashing their page rates for talent. I know that Dynamite's already got that out there in the wind, that, hey, we're going to be paying less, which is funny, because it's like, how low can you go before, you don't have any talent that's worth buying. But I mean, Dynamite's always kind of been that way anyway. They have a couple of good books, and then most of their line is just people who will take what they can get, because it doesn't matter as long as you can throw 50 covers on it.
Obviously, Dark Horse was acquired, I believe, by the Embracer Group within the last 24 months. I believe that's a Scandinavian company out there. But a lot of times, once you get acquired, it ends up doing far more harm than good to a comic book company. We saw the exact same thing with Valiant Comics when they were acquired by DMG Entertainment. Obviously, we saw what's happened here with Dark Horse. Marvel being acquired by Disney does not have appeared to have done much good for Marvel. They've had several rounds of layoffs because at that point, they don't really care about the comic books. They just care about the financials and the bottom line.
Corporatism is death. For any kind of creative endeavor, corporatism is death. They'll come in and they'll purchase it. And, they might let you go for a little while. Like we saw that with, when John Lasseter was still in charge of Pixar, he was still producing hits for Disney. When he took over all of Disney animation, he was producing hits for Disney. But, eventually in the corporate structure, you become inconvenient or you become a challenge to somebody. And he was a challenge to, threat to Bob Iger's power. So he had to go. And what happens is then you hire people who aren't a threat, and they produce things that don't make money. They produce things that don't resonate because you got rid of the talented people because you were threatened by them. Whereas a good leader that is secure in their leadership knows that they don't have to know everything. They don't have to be the expert in everything. They hire people that are experts in those areas and they elevate them so that they can succeed. And then that makes the leader look better because, hey, I can't do everything, but I put the people in place who can.
Yeah, so obviously Dark Horse also downsizing. We've seen lots of layoffs over the past 24 months at multiple different companies. One of them that's been through, I think three rounds of layoffs in the last 24 months is IDW. There was a quarterly report statement out there with an auditor statement in it saying that there were serious concerns about the viability of the company moving forward long term. There is one person that disagrees with that. His name is Davide Jonas. On an investor call with Davide Jonas, he responded to some chatter and confusion in terms of Diamond, but clarified that IDW management does not feel that IDW is a substantial risk as an ongoing concern. We expect in the coming days that we will be restating our financials, removing that language, and we have worked with our auditors and provided additional information and additional clarity so that they share our opinion that IDW is not a substantial risk regarding a continuing as a ongoing concern.
Listen, guys, we've solved the problem. We've taken out the language that tells the truth. So now the company's completely viable because, we say so. Source, trust me, bro.
So the thing is that they once again lost money again. They lost less money than they did the year before, but they're still losing money. I don't think they've actually really made money maybe in one quarter out of the last 16 or something like that. They're continuously losing money. In the last investor call, Jonas was speaking to the fact that it's getting harder for them to get their hands on cash because the people that have invested in the company don't want to invest more in the company because they haven't seen any returns. And now we have the Diamond Comics basically bankruptcy where Penguin Random House had paid IDW for the books, and then Diamond is not paying Penguin Random House, but based on the contract, Penguin Random House says, we're going to take it from IDW directly by not paying them for future product. So they're going to take it out of their ass. But we're supposed to believe that there's no issues whatsoever about their ongoing viability when their viability has been an enormous concern for 3 years now.
Yeah, it's like, and now basically any future payments, any future money they make is going to be garnished by Penguin Random House. And so what's your option?
Take it all at once, but they're going to take it in chunks. They're not going to be getting paid for products that they're selling.
How long can you operate at a loss? Because there is no time period in the foreseeable future where IDW is going to be profitable. So yeah, they lost less money last year than they did the year before. And I guess that's I guess you can call that a win, but what kind of a win is it? You can't run off of a deficit forever. And now that they're going to be pulling in even less money because they're, the money that they do pull in is going to be garnished. They're not going to have another quarter where it's like, look, we went down. It's like, no, because of this, we went up. And there'll be another round of excuses in their, in their filings and in the things that Davide Jonas says, these unforeseen market conditions, blah, 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 economic headwinds. Your company is a failure. It's a failure run by failures. You don't have anything. You paid too much for the Turtles license. Sonic and Turtles is not enough to save you. It's certainly not enough to ever get you out of the debt that you're in. I mean, just what are you doing?
The way you can do it, Aaron, is if your family owns the company and is the primary investor in the company, and you're not publicly traded, you can lose as much money as you want as long as your family's okay with you doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, again, going back to the AEW model.
Oh, are you saying that, was it Howard Jonas or Davidi Jonas is a money mark for IDW and Star Trek comics?
I think so, or at least a money mark for getting into Hollywood. But it's like, you guys don't have anything. It's never gonna happen. Stop trying to make fetch happen. IDW is done, and it's sad because once IDW was this great innovative company that did some really great stuff. They had all these licenses, and they, for a little while they did a good job with them. But eventually, you put the wrong people in place. You had too many editors in there that were hiring, out of pure nepotism. My friend or this other activist that I like, you had those people coming in and they ruined the franchises, and you lost your major Hasbro franchise. And what happened? This franchise that people were saying like, oh, it's not very viable. Look, it's obviously, interest is waning. It goes over to Skybound, to Robert Kirkman and Joshua Williamson, and they are excited about it and they have a plan, and that excitement comes through and it translates to the fans. And that's what sells comics. Your main person over at IDW that everybody knows is Heather Ontos, who is not excited about comics. It's just a thing. It's just a thing that gets her attention online. She doesn't have any investment in it. She doesn't have any knowledge of it in order to get people excited. And therefore, even the stuff that you do have, you can't create any excitement. People are already done talking about Turtles.
You forgot about Andy Corey in charge of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Most notably, he killed off the Vertigo brand, and they had to show it after he was done with it.
Yeah, and he'll kill off the Turtles. He'll kill off the Turtles. I mean, they're already losing Jason Aaron because they can't afford to pay him, what he needs to be paid. So that's going to end. And the hype is already over. Like, nobody's talking about it anymore. Meanwhile, what's going on at Skybound? Oh, everybody's still talking about it. So the best thing that could happen for Turtles is for IDW to go under and for Skybound to get that license and to relaunch it the way that they have, G.I. Joe and Transformers and, everything that's going on with Energon.
Well, I do agree with you. I'm certainly talking about the Juan Freya art. He showed up last week, and it's absolutely badass in spite of Andy Corey and the mismanagement at IDW. But the American comic book industry appears to be breaking apart. Will it heal itself and be something different, here in 12 months, 18 months? I do believe that will be the case, but it'll be interesting covering this along the way. If you enjoy what Aaron and I did here, there's another 2 hours to go with the Geek Fix. This is just a portion of that. If you like the full podcast, you do need to be a Sparrow's Never-Ending Christmas Tree tier supporter on the Patreon. There's a link in the video description. Hope to see you there very soon. Lots of great stuff happening on the Patreon.